let's talk about this because this was a shock. I was just asking Chloe, were people expecting this at all? No. So Dr. Tara Narula is with us. They say it's an apparent cardiac arrest, that she died after being rushed to the hospital after this apparent cardiac arrest. She was so young.
Yeah.
What would lead to this?
Right. So obviously we've been talking about cardiac arrest a lot lately with Hamlin, and it's important to really understand what that means because a lot of people think cardiac arrest is a heart attack. They're two completely separate entities. So a cardiac arrest is really a primary electrical problem with the heart, where the heart goes into an arrhythmia where it's not beating effectively or appropriately. And essentially what happens is you're not able to pump blood. The heart is kind of the pump for the blood out to the rest of the body, to the brain, to the other organs. And pretty quickly, within minutes, you can have death result if you're not treated with things like CPR or potentially defibrillation. And we talked about the other day, 350,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests a year. That survival goes down by about 7 to 10% every minute that a heartbeat is not restored. 3/4 of them occur at home. But this really is, it's another sad, tragic event. And unfortunately, 50% of the time, the first manifestation of heart disease is a sudden cardiac arrest. So people may not know they have risk factors.
She had been getting medical attention, her family said. Do we know anything else about, the fact that she was on the red carpet just 2 days before this happened, I think would shock a lot of people.
And that's unfortunately how cardiac arrest and cardiac disease work sometimes. People can look completely fine until they have a heart attack or stroke or cardiac arrest. And really, what we know about cardiac arrest is that 70% of it is really due to some underlying structural heart disease, or most of it is due to underlying structural heart disease. Most of the time it's coronary heart disease, which is blockages in the coronary arteries, but many times it can be a problem with the heart muscle, where the heart muscle is scarred or there's failure of the heart muscle. But then sometimes, in about 10% of the cases, it can be a primary genetic electrical problem you may have been born with that you weren't even aware of. And then there's things like recreational drug use or certain medications that can trigger it. So there's a whole host of reasons why someone might have a cardiac arrest. But important thing is to look for the risk factors for cardiovascular disease and try to screen and treat those. The same risk factors for cardiac arrest are the same ones that we talk about for things like heart attacks. So high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, exercise, smoking, all of that.
Film and entertainment journalist Sandro Mognetti joins us now from Los Angeles. Sandro, thank you so much for joining us. Given that Lisa Marie's father was one of the most, if not the most iconic musician of all time, she did chart her own course. She became a musician, and that can't have been easy for her, knowing that this gigantic legacy was looming over her throughout her entire life.
Talk about big shoes to fill, but also talking of legacy, I think Lisa Marie did so much to keep her father's memory alive and make him an icon. She inherited Graceland. She ran Elvis Presley Enterprises for a number of years before divesting herself of that in 2005. And right up to the end, she was celebrating the life of her father last Sunday on what would have been Elvis's birthday. She was at Graceland surrounded by adoring fans. Just on Tuesday, I saw her at the Golden Globe Awards, where she was celebrating the award-winning movie Elvis. And those of us who love this family know that we can take some comfort from the fact that she was happy in her final days, celebrating her dad, her legacy, and being around so many loved ones.
One of the saddest parts of the story is that her mother had to announce her daughter's death. So it's Priscilla Presley now, is it, that is custodian of the of the brand, as it were, and keeping Elvis's memory alive?
The public custodian of the brand, yes, certainly. Even though the rights and images, have been sold off years ago. But Priscilla, I've met several times, and she's done a wonderful job at this. And yeah, no mother should go through this. I mean, the prayers and thoughts will be with her around the world. One of the nicest people I've ever met in ever, I would say. And yeah, my heart breaks for her.
And obviously, her family and Hollywood and the industry are reeling because her death has come as a shock. What tributes are pouring in?
Well, among the tributes are one from her third husband, actor Nicolas Cage. And I think he got it right when he said of Lisa Marie, she lit up every room she walked into. She really did. John Travolta, among other stars, paying tribute. Here in Hollywood, it's hit us with so much surprise, not least because so many of us saw her just this week at the Golden Globe Awards. And, that movie, Elvis, is just fantastic. And she was so pleased. To see Austin Butler win the Golden Globe for Best Actor, because she was saying when she saw that film, it took her 5 days to get over it because even though she's seen every Elvis impersonation you can imagine, she said that nobody had got her father's spirit, essence, and voice quite as right as Austin Butler did. And she was so proud and so happy to be at his side representing that movie the other night. And yeah, it really keeps Elvis's memory alive. But, just days later, we have more heartbreak and tragedy for this iconic family.
Um, People that follow her story will be aware of her son committing suicide, which is something that she did speak about, didn't she? And tell us about her children and who she survived by.
Well, you're referring to her son Benjamin, who took his own life at age 27 in 2020. Absolutely devastating. How does any mother get over that? She also has three daughters who she doted on, including Riley Keough, very much a rising star actress as well. I reflect that so many of these people who are born to fame, wealth, and privilege, life doesn't always turn out to be sunshine and rainbows for them. And such is the case with Lisa Marie, who, as well as highlights, had her fair share of heartbreak as well. 4 divorces. But her fans always sustained her family sustained her. She loved her kids. She was a great person, and this is a devastating loss.
And Sandra, you said that you had seen her at the Golden Globes so recently and that she was a lovely person. Are there any stories about her that you think typify who she was?
I remember sort of mentioning once the first time I ever met her, saying that I'd been to Graceland and I'd actually stayed at the Heartbreak Hotel, which is actually down at the end of Lonely Street. It's not there anymore. But I remember sort of laughing with her about how bizarre this was to me that this lyric had inspired this actual hotel and this special place. And told her even though Elvis never played in England, how much he was loved there. And she knew it. And she's heard all these stories before. And so has her mother, Priscilla. But, it was great to sort of enforce always, every time I saw them, how much her father was loved, how much her family has loved. And, I think as the family sort of deals with this, if it's any comfort at all, she and the rest of this family are very adored all around the world. And there'll be a lot of people with broken hearts today.
Sandra Monetti, thank you so much for bringing your insight on this tragedy. Thank you.